What up, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Episode, who knows? It's just a friggin' number at this point. But we're going to talk about today. We'll talk with you guys about a question I got from a person, and it's like a question that gets it. I get variations of this question on a regular basis. I would say probably at least a couple a week. A lot of them come from older grapplers. The advice setup we're going to give you, it's usable at any age. So if you're a younger grappler, it's important then if you can master it. If you're an older grappler, it's like absolutely critical that you take to heart what we're going to talk about. Otherwise, you will burn out of this thing. You will get injured, and that'll be it for you. Your jiu-jitsu career will be over very quickly. I see it happen all the time. And so it's going to be about like training and not overdoing it. Because as I've seen, like when you talk about anything related to like recovery and focus on that kind of stuff, people avoid it like it's like the 300-pound college wrestler who's trying to put you in a heel hook. I mean, it's just like you'll do everything but do that. You'll take TRT, you'll take supplements, you'll go get an ice bath, you'll do whatever, like anything, but take a friggin' rest day or work on recovery. And do the things that you really need to do for recovery. And so we're going to get into that and basically not how to jack yourself up if you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner so that you can train for longevity. And if you're an older grappler, so you can train for a long time and not get injured. And if you're a younger grappler, you can have these periods, maybe if you want to train hard, you can harder if you can, but then you can also undulate to where you're a little bit lighter and a little bit easier. And so you can have these ups and down periods. So this way you can, again, get to your 40s and not be broken. This is kind of something that I used starting off in my 30s to try to, take some of the load off, because when I was in my 20s, I was just training really, really hard all the time and got myself injured a lot, got into my 30s and adjusted my training, and it got better and better, more detailed, specific to my needs as an older grappler. And likewise, it's like allowed me to train for a long time and not get a bunch of injuries, knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon. But that said, good episode. Hopefully you guys get something from it for your training. It'll definitely be more of like things you can do. It's very simple, but things you can do type of episode opposed to just a mindset alone. Big thanks to our sponsors for being here. Charlotte's Web, they're a part of the podcast. He's been sponsoring us for a number of years. It's been like, I think almost getting close to probably around 8.
7, 8 years.
It's been a long time, dude. Again, great products that they make. I've been to their farms, met a lot of their employees, cool people, a good mission behind the company itself, right? Making products that could serve a young woman, which is originally where Charlotte's Web came from. There was a young woman named Charlotte who had some issues that CBD oil basically assisted with, and they started to develop the oils. And so every product that they make goes back to, could we give this to Charlotte? Is this something that we feel like would be good for her? And that's kind of the mission that runs through it. So all their products are third-party tested to ensure the purity and the quality of what's in there is there. And again, they make really good stuff, everything from CBD oils, CBN products, which are really useful for going to sleep, staying asleep. They also have things such as functional mushrooms like reishi, lion's mane. And they have different supplements that go along with them to assist you with focus or stress management or whatever. If you guys want to check out any of their products, go to their website at charlottesweb.com, and the promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. If you guys want to get some new gear for yourself, you want to do some new training gear, whether it be a gi, rash guard, shorts, or if you just want some really cool jiu-jitsu t-shirts, check out Epic Roll. You can go to the website at epicrollbjj.com. When you go there, just sort of browse around the website. And if you find something that draws your eye, strikes your fancy, you can use the promo code Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order to check out to save 20% off what they have. And great designs, great stuff, good quality. I get my rash guards made through them, and I really like it. So again, check them out at epicrollbjj.com. If you guys would like to support the podcast directly, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. We appreciate all of you that are Patreon members. It helps us out a lot. And again, if you guys want to check it out and get details on the perks that are added for a very inexpensive price, go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Also, guys, this will be something that we'll get into in the podcast today, a little bit about. If you would like to get more focus with your training, go to my website at jujitsu.net/join, JOIN. When you join up, you'll get access to my daily email. The Chew Crew is what I call it. And then I'll start sending you my daily email. Now, what you get for joining up is I will send you an ebook and a video that goes along with that goes through 12 different strategies on how to add more focus to your training. So this is something where I tend to sort of favor a less training days approach. And if you're going to do that, I think that it's really useful. It's super important to make sure that you have a very focused set of training goals that you're after. You don't want to be on the mats just kind of going through the motions. A lot of people hit plateaus and everything else because when they step on the mat, you ask them, hey, like, why are you here? What are you doing? What are you working on? Oh, I'm just here rolling, right? Like just going with the flow. And that's a really good way to hit plateaus and have that feeling like you're moving and you're doing a lot, but you're not going anywhere. Like you think about that. If you don't have a clear goal, it's like driving around with no Jeep, like without having a direction, without having an end destination. It's like trying to like walk through a giant fog. You might be moving around a lot, but you have no idea where you're going. So maybe you're going in a good direction, maybe you're not, you don't know. And so it just gives you some ideas on how to create some focus for your rolling sessions. And if you guys want to check that out, it's at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. I'm going to read the question to you that came to me. I do not have his name. We'll call him Bob. I've already talked to Bob personally. So
Bob.
Bab.
All right, Bob. What you got?
So Bob says that he is a 47-year-old jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's trying to train daily, and on like maybe 2 to 3 of those days, or actually 3 to 4 times a week, he wants to try to train twice a day. So 2 a day. He's ballsy. I'm trying to get there through optimizing everything you mentioned. When this was in reply to one of my Chew Crew emails, optimizing everything you mentioned, but by Wednesday, the middle of the week, it's difficult. I'm trying to focus on, very technical rolling, but I'm only, in jiu-jitsu for 3 years, and it's hard to find that sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to slow things down if you've only been doing this for 3 years. 3 years is a lot for a lot of stuff. For jiu-jitsu, it's really not that much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I sent him a message back telling him about, like, dude, like, you need to have rest days. You're 47 years old and you're trying to train twice a day. Like, unless I'm competing, I don't train twice a day. Like, as far as rolling goes, I might lift and then roll, or I might do like some cardio in the morning, but I'm not doing 2 jiu-jitsu days, 2 rolling days, or 2 rolling sessions in the same day. And he says, and again, I do this stuff for a living, right? So he says, I understand why rest is important, but I have the urge to learn skill to improve, and I forget stuff so quickly. So to make it stick, I feel like I need and want to be on the mats at a maximal amount of time while creating focus for the sessions for myself. I give, rest when I start to have trouble sleeping and it hurts, or, if something hurts, but mostly I'm just trying to throttle intensity versus quality and quantity. I'm not sure what that means.
He's trying to, I think,
You're trying to go hard, but
basically I think he's talking about quality versus quantity. I think what he means by that is that he's trying to basically have more time on the mats, even though if it's not good quality training. Yeah. He's trying to be on the mats for longer, which there's a lot of problems.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, that's right.
Then, he goes on to say, like, he just mentions this. He's like, I also don't enjoy sleeping or eating generally. It might be weird. I see it as essential, but enjoyable. And he says, I found magnesium baths are great. So, I've seen a lot of my students get into this issue, and a lot of them are older, right? And if you're older, I'm going to steer you away from this approach. Now, this is an extreme approach. This is like kind of the extreme case, but I see versions of this for many of you guys who have messaged me, and I've also seen this from students of mine at my gym who like come in and they're older grapplers. They got a little bit more time on their hands, right? Kids are a little bit older, whatever. And they come into this with this damn like mindset of like, I got to make up for lost time. And so they just start to throttle it, and we live in a society that, shoot, it just basically, if you have to do everything to the max. You can't simply do something at a leisurely pace and enjoy it, because everything's like so productivity minded. You got to go hard. You got to burn yourself out, hustle, grind, whatever. Bunch of nonsense. But, basically here's the things that I said to him. So look, let's say you were finished lifting a set and you wanted to get the most from your next set of lifting. What would you do? If you were stumped with a situation at work, you're like, man, I just can't get through this. What would you do? If you were able to, right? If you had the option to. Yeah. Anytime something sort of exhausts you mentally or physically, what do? take a break, rest, take a little time, you come back to it when you're ready. And yet, from talking with hundreds of you people, online and everything else, and also from my own experience and being this way at different points in my life, we will push, 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 push. And even when our body starts to give us, little whispers, hey, maybe you need to take it a little easy. We keep pushing, we keep pushing, we keep pushing until it becomes screams. Maybe it's a scream of an injury, some tendonitis.
Yeah.
Maybe you're lethargic, but you just keep grinding, keep pushing. You listen to the David Goggins video and you're going to keep going, right? Mm-hmm. Only to feel like your abilities on the mats, in the gym, and everything else that you're doing off the mats all starts to go backwards and in the wrong direction.
Yep.
And so when it comes to training, my coach Eli, he said this plenty of times, and this is something he shared with me. He's like, just think about it. Your ability to improve is limited to your rate of recovery. This is true with bodybuilding and lifting. It's true with jiu-jitsu. If you're not recovering from your training sessions, like, you're not going to be able to give yourself the most. You're not going to get the most from yourself when you come back into the training room.
Yep.
And you also have to separate the way that you look at rest and everything. Like, you have to separate, you have to change the way that you look at everything that you do off the mats.
Yes.
It's all training, right? So like when you go home and you eat, that's a part of your training. When you go to sleep, part of your training. When you manage your stress, part of your training. It's all part of your training.
Yeah.
Because, there's two sides of the coin. There's the active side. That's when we go in and do the actual training. Let's say you're training for 2 hours a day. Whatever, maybe you're training long. Let's say two hours a day. The rest of the 22 hours is kind of like leading around that. Like, okay, how does your body recover from this 2 hours of training? It's like an old bodybuilder told me years ago. He said, you don't grow in the weight room. Yeah. You grow in the bedroom and the kitchen. Like what you eat, what you do with sleep, all that stuff. That's the important stuff. And so a lot of times we get really dialed in on the hard part, the physical part, the stimulus, right? But then we sort of forget about the other part. And then what happens with people is like, if they don't recover and their improvement begins to stall and go backwards, they'll start to optimize things. They'll improve their diet. Sometimes they'll, start to take some Mexican supplements. They'll do a little TRT, which I have no problem with. I think it's fine if you want to take some TRT, especially if you're an older grappler and your health's in good shape. Like, if you want to take some TRT, why not? Go ahead. Do it under doctor's orders if you'd like. But even then, you're still going to have a ceiling of when you need to take a damn break. You could juice yourself up to the gills, and you're still going to have to take some days off, right? Again, going back to the bodybuilder things, you have these guys that are literally using mass quantities of that stuff, and they're still really focused on going to sleep over and over again. And again, it's not just a physical thing. There's the mental side of it. I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience where you go into the gym, or let's say you have something outside of the gym that takes you away from the gym for a few days. Maybe your family was sick and you had to take care of them. Maybe you had a work trip, whatever. You're in good shape, but you just had to take a couple of days off. Screws up your schedule. You finally come back, and it's like, man, you're on fire. You feel good. You're like, I feel sharp. You're mentally there. You have energy. You've missed it. You're ready to go. What if you felt like that every single time you trained? Do you think it would be better or worse? I mean, it's just a thought, right? Yeah. And again, I think that this is the big deal because, again, I've been there before. I was younger, and it was felt like I had to make up for lost time. If I had a layoff or something for some reason, like an injury, I would get back to the gym and try to push it too hard. And again, this led to a lot of issues with overtraining. Some of them required surgery. And again, it's a bad idea. And so for you guys that are there, we'll talk more about this in a second, but just one of the first things to sort of share with you as we're getting into this. If you're an older grappler, you really have to understand this. There is no way around it, because you will burn yourself out. You'll get hurt, and this thing will be over very quickly. You had all these ideas and dreams and everything else, and it's going to be over quick if you don't get this down. If you're younger, the sooner you get this down, the better off you'll be for the long term. Like what we were talking, me and one of my coaches were talking about this morning. Like back in the day, a lot of the guys that were fighting MMA, they were just trained. We trained way too hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Me, I saw it from back then as being a bad idea. I remember one time, one of my first training sessions, we were in the gym. This was like an old MMA fight team. My first day with them, we're in there sparring in the boxing ring, and I'm used to sparring at like a sparring pace or sparring, like you're going hard, but you're not going too hard, right? I'm never digging in and really trying to knock you out, but they're encouraging us, go, 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 go. And I literally like hit a guy with a left hook to a right hook and knocked him out. Like, he dropped him. I saw his legs fold and I was like, oh, damn, what the hell are we doing? Why are we going this hard? It was like, we got egged on. And before I know it, I'm like 22. So I'm like,
sure.
Me and this guy are swinging. I knock him down. I'm like, oh no, like this is not what I want to happen. I like this guy. I want him to get better. I don't want to give him brain damage. And, again, back then the ideas of CTE and stuff weren't nearly as popular as they are now and well-known. Back then it was punch drunk.
Yeah.
I don't want my buddy to be punch drunk. And so again, we're not going to get punch drunk, but you can destroy your body with jiu-jitsu pretty damn easy if you are not smart with it. And especially if you're younger, you have the capacity to get away with this for a time. You'll still have some of the symptoms we're going to talk about. But if you trained in a way where you ramped it up for the things you needed to, and then you turned it down and had this maintainable pace that preserved your bucket of bones, you could avoid a lot of injuries and you could still make progress with your game, and you can train for that long haul. Yep. Yes, sure. People that might be training a ton more than you, they may get better than you in the short term, but watch them get injured, watch them get hurt, watch them get sick, watch them wash out later on. Whereas you can train for like forever, because you're never going to that point of burnout or complete just decimation of your body. You're always leaving just a little bit in the tank. So this way you got for the next session. Or when you reach that point, you back off a little bit. And so, so just an idea, like you cannot avoid rest. Think of rest. Think of all the stuff that you do outside of the gym as the other side of the same coin as training. There's the training, there's the stimulus, there's the active stuff, there's the hard work. The other side of it is just as important. The way you sleep, the way you eat, the way you manage stress, the way you avoid drinking too much booze, the way you live your life outside, all that stuff's part of it. So just an idea to chew on as we get into this. Super important. And I see a lot of people not do this. They sort of they really enjoy training, and then they live sloppily and in an unthoughtful way in the rest of their life. And they wonder why their body doesn't perform well, why they're getting sick and injured and everything else. It's like, and then they try to keep pushing it in the gym to make up for what could be fixed on the outside of the gym.
Yeah. Well, it's like you persist into, you're afraid to lose progress or not do as well. So you push harder. It's like you're putting a square peg in a round hole. You're pushing harder. Then you're just like, you're diminishing returns. Because I think when you were talking about Bob talking about, quantity over quality, and that's, to me, it's like, well, if I spend more time, even though it's not good quality training, as long as I'm on the mats more, I'm going to get better. That's not always the case.
No,
there's diminishing
returns. A lot of times it's not the case.
Yeah. A lot of times, but like you think, well, what advice do people tell me? Get better at jiu-jitsu, I need to do more jiu-jitsu. So I'm going to spend as much time doing jiu-jitsu, even if I'm beat up and I can't literally remember any of the techniques, and I can't even like focus on, like, you show me a technique we're working on in class, coach shows you technique,
you're so burned out,
you forget like right away. So like that's one of the things. That's probably one of the mental signs, and we can let's talk about like the mental signs. Probably brain fog and lack of concentration. I mean, that's a huge one, right? Like you're coming in. I mean, I've come in after a long day of like seeing clients, and I come in and like just my brain is just not, like, I'm just not as focused. And it takes me a little time.
Yeah, you got to get warmed up, got to get moving.
But sometimes, like, if you're there every single day, it's like, oh, shit, I just can't. Like, the techniques start to run together, and you just don't remember anything.
Right. Well, and also too, this is just sort of an aside. This isn't really towards our thing. If you feel like you have brain fog and your mind is just scattered, and you self-diagnose yourself with ADHD, delete social media for a month. Tell me how you feel. None of you listening to this, maybe like one of you, like we have thousands of people that listen to this thing every day. One of you might do it. But that one person, you will be rewarded. And I share that with you because anybody that follows that tip from me, like literally think about this. You can always come back to it. You can even check it on your computer because it's less addictive on the computer than it is on your phone. Like they found studies, like basically like on the phone, you scroll and it's like so addictive. On the computer, it's like, meh, whatever. It's not nearly as, that's why like all the ads go to the mobile versions, like way more, right? Because like when they originally did it, like when they put it on mobile, they were looking at the usage data. Yeah. Like, oh my God, these people just stay on the mobile version, put the ads over there. So, just try that out for a month, see how it feels if you're having the scatterbrain thing, because that'll do wonders for you, because I think people don't really appreciate how much flow of stuff's coming through and how they're just distracted. And, again, it's not just the amount, it's the constant shifting.
Yep.
Like you're changing, you're constantly checking your phone. And I know I rally on this a lot and people probably get tired of hearing it, but it's really important. Like we see what it's doing to our children's brains. It's completely destroying them. And you look at what it does to adults, it does the same stuff. And you watch people go watch, like, look around you. People are just like constantly, they're walking and scrolling. It's like, dude, get off your damn phone. Like, look around you. But I share that with you because anytime I've gotten someone to do that, they will come talk to me, bro, I feel so much better.
Yes.
God, I feel good. I feel I'm sharp. I'm mentally weak. And you know what you can do? If you can't let go of it, maybe you do work from it like I do, just delete it. Delete it. And you can always add it back on for like, 30 minutes a day or whatever you need to do to make your posts, and then just delete it again. Right? Like, what is it really bringing to your life that's so great? Probably not a lot. So anyway, I just share that with you. But, going back to Eugene's thing, when it comes to like pushing yourself, a lot of people will push themselves to the point where, they're mentally zapped and they're still coming into the gym. Right. And again, you can listen to the super hardcore motivational type people and, keep grinding or whatever. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But I think for most people, that's probably not the smartest approach. And if you're someone that's like grinding, and you've come to a point where you're like, God, I'm grinding so hard, I don't feel like I can grind anymore, and I feel like I'm not getting any better, I'm going back. Maybe it's not working out for you. This is the idea that jiu-jitsu sort of teaches you. You have to follow your own path. Every one of us has our own path, the way we do things, and you got to listen to your body. And as an older grappler, even more so, you can't just like go on the internet and like listen to some sort of guru who tells you to do something and says, this is the way to be successful, because you have it's all smoke and mirrors. A lot of cases, you don't know what they're really doing. And you also don't know that person and what they're doing. And then you try to mimic that sort of thing that they're doing, and then it doesn't work for you, but you do it anyway. I saw this a lot with the students probably about 8 years ago when the low carb intermittent fasting fad was going on. Tons of people doing like, oh man, intermittent fasting, low carb, I feel amazing. My brain, so whatever, this and that kind of thing. And then meanwhile, they'd come into the gym and they performed like garbage. Felt terrible, cramping up left and right, like didn't feel good, but they're like maintaining a diet because this dude on the internet they like says it. So again, I'm not saying you can't train hard and grind, because there are periods of where I will grind a little harder for competitions. But generally speaking, this is a person that competes and everything. Like I will train like hard 3 days a week.
Yep.
And then I have rest mixed in there. And there's days I usually have two solid rest days. And I'll have my lifting days and everything else mixed in there. But I have like 2 days where I don't do a lot. I'll like go for walks and enjoy time with family, kids, stuff like that. And when I come back to train, I feel great. And it doesn't hurt my cardio. It doesn't like negatively affect me. In fact, it makes me better because when I get into the weight room again, I feel refreshed. I'm ready to attack the weights. When I get back on the mats, I'm like itching. I'm like, God, I want to be back on the mats now. And so you can mix that rest in to do that. And instead of going into the gym, I can't remember anything, your brain will be nice and clear and ready and rested to take in the information, to absorb it. And also, too, the rest allows you to help absorb the information better. Because when you're taking in information, you need the rest to sort of absorb it and to sort of integrate it in your body. You think about like little toddlers, how much rest they need as they're taking on all this new information for their body to integrate. You don't just get to do the hard part and think your body's just going to like zip it. It's not the Matrix. And so, I had coffee, so
I want to circle back.
Let's go back.
I want to circle back about doom scrolling real quick.
Okay.
And you've got some kind of just how you feel. And people always talk about how they feel, but I've got it. So they call it, so it's brain rot or popcorn brain is what they call it. Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah.
So from doom scrolling. So I'll go through a couple things, and there's some articles on it, but this is kind of like a brief rundown. So it says, number one, when we talked about this, we kind of have how we feel, right?
Well, there's how we feel. I don't have all the studies at hand. I've read guys like Cal Newport, but he shares exhaustive study. Like he's sharing studies about it every day and like talks about. But I don't have the studies.
All right. Well, let me tell you some of the things they explain from like doom scrolling. So they say, obviously, reduced attention span, difficulty focusing. Yeah. So the constant stream of like short form content makes it like basically immediate rewards. So we have a hard time focusing on more complex tasks that require and you don't get those rewards right away. Second thing is lead like brain fatigue. So concentration.
Brain fatigue is legit.
So if you're like scrolling, you're getting so much stimulus, you're just tired afterwards. The other thing is like people get overstimulated by like stuff. Like once you're in the real world, people get overstimulated super easy. So that's something that can lead to like anxiety and feeling more anxious and stuff. So then they talk about brain structural changes and like, so it can decrease gray matter in certain regions of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex. So
you lose your ability to
higher
like,
level
executive
functioning.
Yeah,
it can be limited. And then neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to like
adapt and change,
rewire itself, or like become more adaptable to different things, right? And then mental health. Obviously, we talked about anxiety. It can impact mental health for some people. And then the other thing is, you kind of get disconnected from the real world because you're like doom scrolling.
Oh, so easy. Well, many of you guys,
it's hard to like be like present with like, if I'm on my phone too much, it's hard to me to be more present with like my wife and kids. Like, cause I feel like I have a hard time just being in the moment. Right. So
it's like my phone stays in like a corner at the house.
That's one thing that
I can be with
helps
my kid
me,
and my wife.
It's like to get my phone away, because like I'm constantly like, you get pinged all the time. Boom, boom, boom. It's like Pavlov's dog. Like it's like ringing the bell. Like, oh shit, phone. So your attention just kind of doesn't stay.
Yeah.
So if you're like doom scrolling before you go into training, before you get into Jiu-Jitsu, throughout the day, exactly. But also right before, you're like getting all the stimulation, and then you go into training and you're like trying to focus on being present and training and moving your body, and your like brain is probably somewhere like it can't regulate. So
the brain fatigue is legit, because I remember when I first started implementing my process of deleting it, was more energetic throughout the day. I didn't feel as tired. I was like, why? This is wild. Like I just felt so tired from fiddling around on the phone, even though I wasn't on it that much. It would be, I would check it periodically, and my brain's switching gears every time it looks at the phone. So I might be in a deep task and you're switching. Then you got to go back to the deep task, and like I said, the guy that I sort of read a lot of his stuff on is like Cal Newport, who talks about this a lot and, rallies against it. And so I'm, sort of that's a hill I'll die on, because I really think that we're not being honest about how bad it really is for us.
Sure.
It's literally like smoking back in the day, like, oh, it's not that bad, whatever. You're like, shit, it's not, dude. Like, look what it does. Like,
we'll find out 20, 30 years from now.
Bro, you don't have to look at little kids that turn into like me and Jess call them tablet vegetables. Like one of the things is like, I've got a little rambunctious toddler, and I want him to be a little rambunctious boy. Right. I want to facilitate it. I want him to roughhouse. I want him to climb on stuff and just whatever, because that's who he's supposed to be. Like, I don't want him to be like stuck on a tablet and a screen because I'm tired. I'm like, no. I'll suck it up. It's like, it's my job to like take care of him, because that's who he is. And later on, we'll tire out a little bit. He'll be an adult, but right now he needs to be that. And so I think about the whole, like, screen here, just get on screen, man, just get away from me. And I'm like, we have a tablet that we used for an airport.
Yeah.
On the flight, we used it like for that one flight, and he's like, tablet. No, this thing's going up, dude. So we put it back in the closet.
Sure.
Like, no, sir. But again, so you can see it happening now. And so I know this is a completely off subject of whatever, but it's really not. Because again, if we're talking about everything that you do off the mats supports you or takes away from you on the mats,
I think so.
If you have something that destroys your sleep because you're scrolling before you go to bed, that makes you mentally fatigued because you're constantly switching gears with your thoughts and everything else, doesn't support you with stress, probably makes you more like angry or afraid or whatever, because that's what it's literally algorithmically designed at this point to put more like stuff that sort of makes you feel negative about it, because you'll stay on the apps longer that way, right? So you have this thing that's really not adding a lot to your life, and it's taking away from your ability to be the best possible version of yourself. Why do you want to? I mean, I'm not talking about you have to get rid of it all the time, but you could figure out ways to support you. Why would you keep that around? It's like when we talk about like food in our environment. Like, if you're trying to cut weight, you don't keep ice cream in the house.
Right. Change your environment.
It's a bad idea, because we're all weak. I'm weak. Like, you think like this thing's been engineered by like incredibly smart people. I'm not smarter than that. I just have to delete it off my phone so I don't check my phone.
Yeah,
I don't have a choice, because otherwise, if it's on the phone, I will sit there and fiddle with it. And like before I know it, I'm like, just my instinct is to pick up my phone and check, and I don't have a reason to.
Yeah,
I'm just doing it because my body's dopamine. Give me some.
Yep.
And so again, it's long tangent there. Really important if you're trying to get more mental clarity for yourself. We did the Executors Challenge back in January, and anybody that did it was like, man, I felt so much better. Like, it was the first day I was like, delete social media for the month. Just let's see how it works. You don't have to, you can do whatever you want. But if you're really wanting to get more focused in your life and everything you do, what could it hurt to try? You know, and if you say you physically can't, then like you have an addiction problem. Just my my bearded opinion, of course.
So that like kind of touches on, you know, the brain fog and lack of concentration. So that's something you can do outside of training.
Sure.
So the other thing mentally that you can find, maybe you're looking at signs of overtraining, or if you're kind of doing a little too much mat time, I think is maybe even not even enjoying training, or decreased desire.
You can get depressed.
Yeah.
Like you can literally have signs of depression. I've gotten there before. Like literally just
from training too much.
Train too much.
Okay.
And it's a thing. Like it's a thing. Like you can literally have like essentially like like you're in a depressed state. You're not clinically depressed, right? Like you don't need medicine or anything, but you're in a state of depressed energy because you've put yourself in the hole negatively for your energy, right? So you're in a depressed state. And so you're, brain foggy, you're tired, you're down and out, you feel bad. You don't even feel good. You don't have any energy for anything. It's just weird. It's, then you go to sleep and you're like, I feel better now. That was probably an issue where you just overdid it. And it happens sometimes because a lot of times we don't appreciate, I think, the level of the actual load that jiu-jitsu places on us, both physically and neurologically, right? Like, it places an immense load on your body, like your muscles and everything else, your tendons, and it also places a load on your mental structure and your whole neurological system. It's intense stuff. You're like getting your heart rate up to its max. In a lot of cases, for a lot of people, you're getting your heart rate up in the max. You may not think of it that way, but like when you're rolling around, like in a good hard scramble, your heart rate's spiking.
Sure.
That's tough on your body. That's not easy. You're doing some athletic stuff and you need the rest and recovery, the diet and everything else to support that. And sometimes you need a damn rest day. And especially if you're older and I always think about this, like when you're older, you're in a situation where you're coming into a sport, doing athletic stuff at a time when most people are in other athletics are either thinking about retirement or are already retired. And here you are trying to they're getting out of it and you're getting into it and you're trying to mainline it like you're a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
It scratches that itch though, that maybe some people have lost, like they've lost that like competitive activity.
Sure.
Right. So people get into, some people get into golf, some people get into pickleball, whatever it is. But like jiu-jitsu in a unique way scratches that itch because man, it's like
it's primal. You're like going against another human too.
And I think one of the addictive things about jiu-jitsu is you learn, like you're learning. Like, I mean, in golf, for example, I'm not a big golfer. I've golfed a few times in my life, but I'm hitting the ball better, but like, it's not there's such a significantly more
for you. Cause there's some golfers listening. It's like,
all right,
bro,
you're right. So
golfing's like a rabid, group of people to get into it.
Tell me there's not an incredible satisfaction to having a technique, working a technique and then hitting it and rolling.
Oh yeah. No, it's great.
I mean, there is just like something like, damn, I've been working on this thing. I just hit that shit
against another body that's resisting.
And they maybe even know what you're doing, or you set them up in a way, man, there's like, damn, that feels good. Right. And I'm like saying,
and you get immediate feedback. So like you get to try it out, you get to learn it, and then you get to go try it during a roll or a situational drill, whatever. And you get to see if it works. And if it works, great, it worked. And if it didn't, then you make your adjustments. And that's very addictive because very few places in our life, this is why you can have someone that like legit has ADHD and you can let them roll and they will just be wired because it's a game.
Sure.
You're getting immediate feedback. You're like, you have wins and losses. It's a game.
And you learn and you're like, oh, that didn't work. How do I figure it out? So if you're like someone that loves video games, right? You keep playing this boss or this level and you can't beat it. And then eventually you're like, all right, what do I do different?
Right.
Try to do different things. So it has this addictive nature to it. That's why I think a lot of people get addicted, and it scratches a lot of these itches for people, which is awesome. But again, you also have to balance that with the other things. So you've mentioned something about heart rate. And I think one of the important things to look at is if like maybe you're not training, or maybe you're going at a pace that you're used to going, your heart rate spikes a lot faster, or even your resting heart rate
or it doesn't come down as fast.
It doesn't come down as
You'll
fast.
see that sometimes too. And again, this is like we're talking about stuff. You can make this as nerdy as you want to be, but basically, if you monitor your heart rate on any regularity, what you'll find is that your heart rate has a tendency to be at a certain rate when you're at rest. And if you start to get into those places where you're really overtrained, your heart rate just at rest will be elevated. And then when you go to the gym, it spikes up faster. And then also too, you'll notice that when you come down, if you're in good shape, your heart rate will like quickly come back down.
Yes.
Not probably to resting rate, but like to a really much lower rate.
Yeah.
Like I can be in like the 170s. And within a minute, I'm back to like 100. It's just, it just goes back down, like ready to go. Right. Whereas if I'm starting to get tired and my body's worn down, it'll like starts to get caught. It'll sit at like 130 for a bit. Then it drops to 120. And then it's like, it's taking longer to get back down. Right. And that may not be a bad thing. That could be you're at the tail end of a training session. Your body's, it's worked. But, if you're at the beginning of a training session and normally it comes down a lot faster, that can be a sign of, we're in a place where we're starting to push it a little too hard. Mm-hmm. And even if you're trying to implement easier days, measuring your heart rate is really important. So this is something that I'll do on days where if like, I know that I had a hard day on, let's say Monday, okay, Tuesday, I'm going to move around, but I'm going to limit myself and I'm going to, not go as hard. Now I could go off of feel, and I honestly have a good feeling of how hard I'm exerting myself. I've been doing this stuff for 20 plus years, right? So I can tune into my body and I can almost know roughly what my heart rate is without even checking it. Yep. Just kind of know what the exertion level is. But I will use a heart rate monitor to say, okay, like I'm going to try to keep myself in the 130s today. I'm not going to go out of the 130s. And if I get out of the 130s, I'm going to back off. And so sometimes I'll be rolling and I'll have my phone up on the wall and I'll just kind of keep an eye on it. And it's like, if I start to notice I'm getting too high, I'm like, back off, because 130s and under, I can train like that. And that's really not an issue. But if I get into those hard scrambles when my heart rate gets up into the 170s plus, well, then we're in the territory where like, that's going to take a lot out of me. And so you can undulate these sort of training sessions if you want to mix in like easier days with using a heart rate monitor to do that. There's different versions of it. The Whoop's really popular. I'm not a big fan of like, it's fine. It's like, it's a monthly cost, which I hate.
I heard those is it the one around your bicep?
Yeah.
I heard they're not as accurate as like the chest straps.
Yeah. I like the chest strap the best. There's different versions of the ones you want. I like the chest strap the best. I also like not having to pay a monthly fee for something because I don't need, because the Whoop thing, one of my buddies, he was having it and, it would measure all these different things. And it would basically tell him every day that, and he's like, I feel great.
It puts you on a score, right?
Yeah. It puts you on a score. So, but like it was Evan, remember Army Evan? So Evan, guy's like in amazing shape in his 20s at the time, late 20s, early 30s, and like takes great care of himself and was getting plenty of sleep, whatever. Meanwhile, say, oh, well, you're on the hole. You probably shouldn't train hard today. Like, what are you talking about? I just had 2 days off. I feel great. Like, so it's one of those things where, to me, it's like, go check your heart. What does it do when you start training? That to me, that's a better read than like saying this thing has some sort of score that it's trying to give you about your sleep and everything else. And so I think I had the same problem with the Oura Ring. I would wear it. It was supposed to be doing all these metrics, and it would keep telling me, I'd wake up in the morning, dude, had to have like that perfect night where you don't wake up at all. You didn't have to use a restroom. You just slept through the night and had like 7-8 hours of like just uninterrupted sleep. And, the birds are chirping, the lights shining through the window. You're like, I feel amazing. I'm ready to grab life by the nuts. And then what happens? I look at my Oura Ring score and it's like, oh, you should probably take a rest today because whatever. Then instantly I would get mentally like, oh, maybe I don't feel so good. So I just like, screw this ring. Like, I'm going to go off of my body's intuition rather than a gadget. Also too, with the Oura Ring, I remember reading a guy that was like a sleep study guy, and he measured all these different sleep gadgets, and he found that like the best ones were maybe 60% accurate because it's just, they don't have the mechanisms to do it. And he's like, most of them aren't really all that accurate. Yeah. So anyway.
Well, those are tools. You got tools in the tool bag.
So heart rate's good stuff. Check it out. I use a Polar strap. If any of you guys are interested, some people talk whatever about the Polar, but to me, it's like, it's inexpensive. I can usually get about 2 years out of one of those straps.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. 2+ years before like anything happens with it. The other one I've got right now is about 2.5 years. It's going strong.
Yeah.
The other one lasted for 2 years and they're like, it was like $70 or $80.
Yeah. Yeah. They're pretty decent. Yeah. And they do a good job. All right. So I think we can talk about, the heart rate, the resting heart rate, but then also having a persistent fatigue, just feeling like you're kind of just constantly tired on the mats. I think that's something to pay attention to. You just don't feel like you have that next gear. And for me, I feel like, man, I just can't get out of like, just
stuck
mid gear. Yeah. Like I'm pushing on the gas and my body's not doing it. So that's something I think
it's another good indicator that, hey, maybe I need to take a rest day.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, as you get more and more into training, you got to find your body because everybody's a little different. And you have to get to that point of reaching past your limits a little bit to know where your limits are. But when you start reaching that point where you're mentally fatigued for everything, not just training, but like life, probably a good day to take a rest. Cause you know, most of us, if you're over the age of like 30, you know, my 20s, for instance, I didn't have anything. I didn't do anything, just trained.
Well,
You know, and I had so much more bandwidth for it, and like would take naps in the middle of the day, everything else, like just so much less stress. As I got older, all of a sudden, like I own businesses, got a wife, got a kid. Like
that's exactly right.
I have all these people that I have to talk to and organize stuff. It's a busy day, and there's no like I don't get downtime in the day. Like I you know I get a little bit of like break in between things, but I don't get to just chill and kick back and watch TV or play video games. Like I'm busy during the day, and until like 9:30 at night or whatever, when the kid goes to sleep and me and the wife are, you know, basically finished eating dinner, like the day's going. You know what I mean? And so you really have to think about that. As you're an older person, you typically have a hell of a lot more on the plate than say like a 20-year-old who just doesn't have any responsibilities. And so all of that again factors into it, because that's a load, right? Like, because not only do you have all this new information from the techniques, you get all this information from everything else that you're having to take in. You have all these people that are tugging at you and, hey, I need you for this, whatever. There's a lot of things going on. And so you have to respect that. It's all part of it factors into the training, because it's all a load on you that you have to respect. And a lot of times what I find is when I overtrain, I'm shorter with my wife.
Yeah.
I'm shorter with my son. I don't have the energy and the like, you know, I'll sit down to write my emails to you guys, and I'm like, my brain's like, I feel like if I was a cartoon, it's like there's a cog and there's like smoke coming out of the sides of my ears. Like this stuff's not happening. You know, I'm just not as sharp as I'd like to be. And so again, for me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are, you want to be like sharp for everything you do on and off the mat, for your family, for your work, for your jiu-jitsu, everything. And to me, like that's where the rest day, again, I feel like I need it. I need that rest day. Got to back off.
That's such a great point. Like you know, when you're in your 20s, you don't have any responsibilities. You actually can kind of incorporate rest into your day, as opposed to like when you're in your 40s and you have all these responsibilities, like you said, job, kids. It's like you're getting home and you're working. Essentially, you're just working a different way, and so your body doesn't really, because you still have to be focused on, well, I'm gonna make sure my toddler's taken care of, and what do we need for tomorrow, and what needs to be done for the business or the office. So like it's constantly like your brain's not really allowed to just kind of, sometimes playing video games is nice because you get to kind of unwind or read a book or whatever, but you can't really, sometimes you get 30 minutes to do that,
you know, and I do that at nighttime before I go to sleep. Might play a video game for like 30 minutes to like just turn my brain off, to like literally just turn off, you know, read a book or whatever. And I get time to myself throughout the day, but there's still we're doing stuff. It's not like, you know, as an example, when I was like a full-time training athlete, and I say this all the time, being an athlete is so much easier than being like a working mom or dad that's also trying to train.
We have a singular focus.
You know, I mean, dude, singular focus, and you just don't have anything on the plate.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so I'm in my mid-20s. I remember I would train in the morning, and I'd get done. I'd go to lunch, you know, go take a nap, play some video games, read books, basically screw off for like, maybe watch some instructional videos, screw off for basically like, I don't know, let's see here, 12. So 12 to like about 4 or 5 hours, come back,
It's nice.
train in the evening. You know, or I would go to work, you know, and would work. For a while, I was working a part-time job at work, and it was kind of an easy enough job at work, but I didn't have a family or whatever. So I'd get work and I'd come home, I'd go and take a quick nap. I'd go to the gym early, get there before everybody got there. I'd take a nap for about 20, 30 minutes, get up, train, go home, do stuff. I mean, there was nothing else to worry about. There's no focus.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to do. And so again, it's just a different life period. And so I feel like with a lot of us who, as we get older, we got a lot more stuff going on. We don't have that ability to just like kick back and relax. Like you say, you come home, you got to take care of your kiddos. You got to make sure your spouse is, you know, looked after, because, you know, you got to nurture that relationship too.
Sure.
You don't get to just like turn your brain out and veg or go like conk out on the couch by yourself, you know, in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
For most people.
I think with the fatigue, one of the things that comes along with that is the decreased performance, or your technique is off. Like you're not as sharp on the mat. So you're like just not quite, you know, don't have that next speed, but you're also not as sharp with your techniques.
Yeah, or you're like slow. Sometimes you'll be in that situation where you feel like something you could normally do for some reason today you just can't.
Yeah.
You know, I've had that situation where all of a sudden, like, I normally can hit this particular technique, but then today I can't hit the damn technique to save my life. It's just for some reason, something's just off. And I just feel really slow. I feel like I'm a step behind. Take a day off, sometimes 2 days off. All of a sudden I come back and I'm like, there we are, back in flow state. I'm just moving through things and I'm catching stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the other things we were talking about is like a sign of overtraining is having trouble sleeping.
Sleeping's that's usually
Like-
one of my first ones.
Like you can't get good restful sleep, or
I'll
get
wake
enough
up a
sleep.
lot.
There you
It's
go.
like when I'll go to sleep relatively easy, but man,
Yeah.
I'll just wake up.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, if I'm really overtrained, when I try to go home and go to sleep, I literally will I'll like lay down and close my eyes, and then all of a sudden, as soon as my eyes close, it's like my mind kicks on.
Yeah, your body
like-
just can't.
He's like, "Hey, what's up?" You close your eyes and you know,
Is that the voice? Hey, what's up?
I mean, I feel like it because it's like, to me, this is the voice of someone that would be unwanted, that you wouldn't want to hear this voice when you're trying to go to sleep, right? Like, hey, what's going on, buddy? And I feel like when I try to go to sleep and I'm like really like in the hole with my like recovery and stuff, because I push it too hard, that happens to me where like my body's just whatever's going on, my nervous system is just too wired up and I can't sleep. Whereas like I found where like, sometimes if I'm starting to have that trouble sleeping, take a rest day the next day, and then I'm back to sleeping like a tank. And usually like my sleep is pretty routine and pretty much on the ball, and I'll sleep 7 to 8 hours and I don't get up to go to the bathroom anymore, which is great. Figured out how to fix that. That's pretty good. As I've gotten older, I go to the bathroom less, and I still drink, gallon plus of water.
Yep.
So, just things like that. So yeah, for me, as soon as like the sleep one's really common for me. That's one of my early indicators that, hey, we're starting to we're dipping a little bit too low.
Yeah.
I'm starting to have trouble sleeping.
There's another physical sign, I would say, of like overtraining. We have a buddy that I train with. When he gets training an awful lot, his joints hurt, and one of the ways his joints hurt is like he can't straighten his elbows. Like he's done too much. Like, so if your joints start progress like hurting and they can't start losing range of motion, or like just constantly ache, that's a sign you may be overdoing. A lot of people get that in their knees, elbows, sometimes your low back. But like, if you think of your elbows, his elbows, he couldn't they would hurt to bend and straighten, like, and just it hurt to even move his elbows, and just from all the gripping and stuff like that. So repetitive kind of nature of some of the things. So, I mean, there's some ways you can mitigate that by maybe changing up your techniques or what you're working on, or gi versus no gi. But like some of that could be just your body just aches and your joints hurt.
Yeah. I've seen that happen before. I've had that happen before. You get a little tendonitis. It's just so funny though, because like, let's say if you're in the gym and you were doing like some tricep exercise and you were all of a sudden getting tendonitis from it, what would you do? You'd stop doing that damn exercise for a while, right? But when we go
vary it up in some way, but
right, you would change, right? But then when it comes to training, and I don't know if this is because maybe we attract people who have a certain level of type A-ness to them, right? But they just want to push through it. And, and maybe there's a time where you do this. Maybe there's a time where you push through it and like, hey, I'm going to work through this. But, a lot of times you're getting into that stuff. It's like that tendonitis. Those are the first signs that, hey, something's going on, man. Back off, because if you back off, bro, then things will get better. And otherwise, if you don't, you're going to get like seriously injured. Again, I've done it before. So this is like, I'm sharing this from my experience where literally done it. I've literally run myself into injuries because like all the signs there, I'm getting mentally fatigued. I'm tired. I'm fatigued, mentally not sharp, whatever. No, we got to push through. We got to grind. We got to hustle. We got to do more. Because that's what everybody that's successful does, right? I don't think so, but whatever. And then what happens? You get hurt. I mean, dude, I've seen like high level competitors, like they're posting on Instagram, like they got rhabdo.
Yeah,
like got rhabdo. You're basically like you're damn near killing yourself.
Yes,
like whoa.
That's
not good.
Severe. Like your body's literally eating itself. It's eating the muscle tissue.
Yeah.
And that can kill you.
It can kill you. Like you're literally training yourself to death. And again, maybe is that what you need to do? I don't know. But for me, like I wouldn't want to die to do jiu-jitsu. I want jiu-jitsu to support my life. I don't want it to take away from it. I want to train for a long time.
Yeah.
I want to train until I'm like an old fart who like still moves around in some capacity. I want my neck and my back to be okay. I don't want to be like, I had a great time for like 4 or 5 years. And then I was pissing Coca-Cola because I had rhabdo. And then that was it for me. Again, it just, I'm making, these jokes or whatever, but it's just something to think about because we all know this is a marathon, not a sprint. That's one of the sort of verbiages that gets used, right? One of the maxims. understanding that means that like you got to take breaks every now and then because you're not sprinting through this. We're not going for that short-term intensity.
Yeah.
We're playing that long game. And it's not to say you can't be competitive. You can definitely be competitive. You can be good at this stuff. But you have to change your approach. We're playing that long game. We're sort of thinking about it from the long term versus like, okay, I've got, I'm going to try to get really, really good at this in the next year or something. Not say you can't be better at it, but I'm just saying, sure, people who train a lot more, whatever, they may get better than you to some degree. I don't know that that's always going to be the case, because what I found as a coach is I've seen students of mine who trained like 3 days a week. I'd see them outperform people that trained like 5 days a week, because when the 3 days a week people came in, they were focused. They're like, I'm here. Sometimes even 2 days a week, they're like, I'm here. Versus 5 days a week, I'm so tired. They appreciate it more. The more focused, they have more rest in between. So I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself
as a 2 to 3 time a week or weaker.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be dialed in, because like you don't get, like, people ask like, why do you go to, like, how do you get up for 6 a.m. class? Because like, I don't have any other choice, man. Like if I don't come in at 6 a.m., I'm not training. I mean, I have responsibilities and I coach at 6 a.m. But like my ass has to be in there, or I'm not getting my training in. So like, I think just when you get in there, you value it and you use that time as wisely as you can.
There's an appreciation for it.
You have to have that. Like, I mean, just because I value it, like it's time away from my family, right? It's time with people I enjoy being around too. So I want to be there and be focused and be present for that stuff. But yeah, so I think like sometimes 2 to 3 times a week. For me, I have a sweet spot of 3 times a week, but a lot of times it just depends if I can make it out 3 times. But 2 times a week is usually what I get. And so when I'm in there, I'm really trying to focus. And I do a lot of stuff outside, outside of jiu-jitsu is really like strength training and my diet. And that's another thing. I think when people get maybe overtrained, they may not eat as well. And I don't know what reason. So it could be because you're so tired. You're so run down, like you don't have time to meal prep, or you just get stuff that's easier to eat, or maybe you're just not hungry.
Well, I've even seen where I remember there was a guy talking about it, that when people get sick and they start to get ill, the body sort of like prioritizes healing itself versus food.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you get sick, like what happens as soon as you start to get like coming down with a cold or a flu? You don't really want to eat a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
And so you think about that, you're coming down with like some sort of like sickness to some, because sometimes you get sick. But even then, if your body's just really worn out, you're not really like, I'm just not really that hungry.
Yeah.
And that's even something too, is like, if you're going to train really hard, you have to fuel yourself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people they don't eat for any sort of thought. They might eat, air quotes, clean, but they don't really think about, am I giving myself enough carbohydrates to work? Am I getting myself enough protein to repair from this? Do I have enough fat to like help with hormone production and everything else? Most people are just eating, which is fine, whatever. But I'm saying, if you're trying to like, again, dial things in and optimize whatever else, like this guy was optimizing, diet's a huge part of that. Like, rest and diet, those are like your 2 biggies. When it comes to recovery, those are like your 2 biggies. You can't out train those. You're not going to out train a bad diet. You're not going to out train poor rest. It will come and bite you back at some point. You might get away with it for a while. And people will sometimes use like anomalies, like, oh, so-and-so ate McDonald's and look how good he did. Yeah, sure. But again, talk to me in a few years. He might get away with it. He's in his 20s.
Yep.
Like there are always exceptions to the rule, but that's why it's a rule. Like you did those things in spite of this, right? Not because of it. And so diet's really important. I speak again from a older grappler who, around in my mid-30s, all of a sudden got a coach who started making my diet plans for me. And I remember one of the weird things I had to be careful about was because I felt so good. I remember, it was crazy, because at the time I was running a membership, and we would do these Q&As, like these live Q&As on Sundays. And I remember talking to the group, and I'm showing them my training schedule. And I didn't even think about it. I just was writing everything I'd been doing, because I was like talking about how good I felt on this diet. And I was like, here's a look. And someone had asked a question, the members like, hey, Chewy, how often do you train? And so I had my schedule written up for the week that I was like, I just completed this week. And one of the women that was there, she's like, so Chewy, did you train every single day? You didn't rest at all? And I was like, yeah. Huh. And I started like going back there. I was like, I haven't rested in the last 2 weeks. And it wasn't because I just felt great. Like all of a sudden I had this energy because I was eating such a good diet that was tailored to performance. I was eating everything that I needed and nothing more. I wasn't eating a bunch of excess food, so I didn't feel lethargic, felt sharp. And because everything was just whole food, whatever I was eating before, which was still air quotes clean, it wasn't bad food, but something was giving me some inflammation because all of a sudden my joints felt better.
Yep.
I was like, oh, this is wild. And then I felt great. So I was like, I just kept training. So I just had the energy to train every single day. And so I started having to like, hey, I need to like dial it back a little bit because I feel a little too good. Let me train a little bit less and take rest. Even though I didn't need it, I'm like, I don't want to run into a situation where I overdo it and then, again, get myself injured. But diet's really important. You can get a hell of a lot from yourself when you start eating a really good diet. And a lot of people don't even know. When I say good diet, I mean a diet that is specifically designed for you and the performance that you're trying to get from yourself. Because everybody's diet may change a little bit, but having a diet that's tailored to you, customized to you. And a lot of people don't understand how good they'll feel when they do that because they've never had the contrast. It's like, like when you have like a little kid and you're trying to get them a lesson to understand. One of the best things that can happen is, they have the negative consequence that you're trying to help them avoid, at least in some capacity. And then they have the positive consequence. So they have contrast of the two, and then they can make the decision. Ooh, this is better when I do like dada or mama says. And so like all of a sudden you eat a really good diet that's designed for you, that's for your performance and everything else. You do it for, a month, and all of a sudden you notice, God, I feel so amazing. Yeah. I look better. I feel better. I feel mentally sharp. What was I doing for the rest of my life? I can't go back now, opposed to, the diet stuff sounds great, but I feel okay. Yeah, you feel okay, but you don't know how good you could feel if you changed it.
Yeah.
So diet is super, super important. A lot of people, I think in jiu-jitsu, they get into it, and there typically tends to be like, I had a young person that came in and I wanted to do this because they wanted to get in shape. They're not natural athletes. So being dialed into diet and exercise and all this stuff is not something that comes naturally to them. And so, they're starting to take in this stuff, but a lot of people that get into jiu-jitsu don't naturally come into it with a friggin' phenomenal diet that's tailored to performance and everything else. It's something that's just, this is the starting point for them.
Yeah. And you start to figure that stuff out as the more you go, like, what else can I add in? What other elements can I add? And you kind of just do that gradually. You mentioned something, and this is probably a very obvious sign of overtraining, but it's getting sick more often or being more susceptible to getting ill.
Oh yeah.
You're constantly catching something or fighting something off, feeling like you're constantly under the weather. I think that's a classic sign of overtraining. That's when your body's like, all right. And sometimes you'll get that if you're training really hard for something. I've had that before, and I'm really getting ready for something. I'm pushing myself pretty hard. But again, when I do that, if I'm training for a tournament, I'm going to push myself really hard, and then I'm going to back off. I'm going to have a build up to it, and then I'm going to have a little bit of a, like a recovery time. It's like you can't go to the gym and max out every session. You got to like build up to it, have like your max out day, and then you have a deload week or kind of recovery time where you do a little bit of different exercises that aren't pushing yourself so hard. So the illness is probably, being sick often is probably a sign that you've overdone it, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and then, going to you, like when I do the same thing. If you're getting ready for competition stuff, you don't, let's say, for instance, your goal is to start training, let's just say, between jiu-jitsu, rolling and lifting and everything else, training 5 to 6 days a week on some capacity. Okay, let's just say that's the goal. Well, let's say right now you're doing 2 or 3 days a week. Well, you don't throw it up to 6 right immediately. Right. You say, all right, we're doing like 3 days a week. Let's bump it to 4.
Yep.
All right, let's get to 5. You do this gradually over a process so that your body can adjust to the volume, right? This is like if I'm doing a new weightlifting program, I don't go in there and use the heaviest weight possible in the first week. I'm like, I want to get a feel for the exercises, the routine. I want my body to acclimate to it. So I always keep the weight a little light, and then I adjust to it, and then I keep increasing the weight from there so that my body has time to like acclimate to what we're doing. Even like when I started like working with my coach back in the day, like went from doing sort of like, sort of a modified powerlifting-ish style of lifting to we're doing bodybuilding, lots of volume. Lighter weight, moderate weights, shorter rest periods, things like that. I took about 3 weeks to acclimate to the program because it's very different than what I was used to, so that my body could adjust. And also I wanted to see how I responded to jiu-jitsu. And so when I started doing the program, I took a week off from rolling, got the program under wraps, or into the rhythm, and then I added everything else into it, in adjusting to that volume. Because what I've seen happen a lot of times, and again, guilty right? So everything I'm telling you, I just did this. And again, this may be the most friggin' boring episode to some people because, you know, you're hearing this over and over again, but it's like, just when you start reaching these periods and you're having trouble sleeping and you're lethargic and you don't even really want to go to train, but you're like, no, I gotta go train. Just hear my voice ringing to you, right? Through the, through the episode. But I remember looking at a lot of our fighters, myself included. You would watch fight camps, like we're getting ready for MMA fights. And this is really the worst, because MMA fights, a lot of times when you're getting ready for them, you're driven by a level of, first off, there's a lot of stuff you got to try to train for a fight, right? Like there's stand up, there's takedowns, there's wall work, there's grappling, so forth, cardio. But then on top of that, you have this fear driving you, because you're getting ready to fight someone in a cage and they're going to try to bludgeon your face in. You know, that's a little bit, I mean, for most of us, that's a scary thing. Like, you're like, this person will have the legal ability to hurt me in a way that would, you know, get them charged with a felony outside of here. And I can do the same. And whoever's prepared best and the most skilled will be the best off. And, you know, it's like, I remember being driven by fear because I didn't want to go out there and get hurt. You know, because this person's going to try to go after me, which is always, it amazes me how you see so many amateur fighters who don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you're going into, I mean, I've seen people literally have to go to the hospital to have plates put in their face because their orbital's just crushed because someone just like hammered their face in. Like, this is not a game. Like, you can get hurt very badly. It doesn't happen often, but this is dangerous stuff, dangerous business.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I don't know how you don't take that seriously, but then, you know, going back to it, we would always get sick. Fight camps going through, we've got our 8 weeks or whatever. It was always someone got sick, you got a little cold or something like that. It never failed. And again, what if you could mitigate that week off that you had to take during the middle of your fight camp by simply taking an extra day of rest in between these hard sessions? Because you're like, oh, I'm going to fall behind. I'm going to fall behind. But how far do you fall behind when you get injured? You got to take months off from training. How far behind do you get when you have to take a week or two off because you got sick and you keep getting sick and you can't get healed up from it? How far do you fall behind when you literally can't focus on what you're doing because you're so mentally wiped out and burnt out? And you have no motivation to train, but you're pushing yourself to, are you really getting anything from that? You know, for me, like, I don't get much from those sessions. Yeah. I'm there physically, mentally, I'm not. I'm just like, I'm going through the motions, right? How many times, like, going through the motions doesn't really do any good for anything. Imagine if you ever had your kid, you're going through the motions with them. They know you're not paying attention, and they don't enjoy the experience, and you don't enjoy the experience either. Versus like, I'm ready to be with you. I'm excited to see you. You know, maybe you have a little bit of time away from the day, or maybe like when we took our trip to like Vegas or something. I bet as soon as you came home, we've been there for a few days or whatever, damn near a week. You go home, you're probably excited as hell to see your kids, right? You know, it's so great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, so it's again, like having that little bit of time for the rest. Man, it makes it so much better, because then like you're able to give whatever it is that you're getting ready to do your full attention, your full energy. You have all the motivation, your body's rested. It's so much better and you get so much from it. But we live, and again, I'm just repeating myself over and over again, we live in a society that a lot of times just doesn't value that. They see rest as like the enemy. I'll sleep when I'm dead. You know, let's grind in business. Let's grind, hustle, this and that, no sleep. You're like, this is stupid. Like, this is dumb. This is not a good recipe. This is something I've like learned with the business stuff. I've really started to dial things back a little bit, because it was always like more. And you're like, is this really helping? Yeah. And you look at it, you're like, not really. I'm like, the squeeze that I'm having to give this is not giving me as much juice as I would like, you know? And so again, you start to back off a little bit and you realize it's not that big of a deal. And like, I've found this out for my own self with rest. A lot of times the young version of myself that was sort of rest averse and feared rest as if it was like some sort of, you know, way to limit yourself, that it was a bad idea, is sort of the opposite. Now I'm like, oh no, this is good. I need this rest because it's going to make me better for my next training session. I'm going to get so much more from my training session next because I'm taking the rest now, and I'm going to avoid injuries, avoid being sick, everything else. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Hopefully you got something from it. I felt like there was a lot of repeating there, and I apologize if there was. But
I don't think so. I think we're building off of every little thing, like that, because they kind of feed into each other. Each point we're making kind of builds off the other. So,
you know, it's one of those things where people look for these complicated things to solve all the problems, and you know, sometimes the stuff, it's not easy. You know, like a lot of times the simple solutions aren't easy. They're very difficult. But again, like it's a lot of times that simple stuff that really moves the needle in a big way. You know, they're looking for some magical supplement, some sort of whatever thing. So just take a rest day. Just eat better food, and I mean, see how you feel. It's really not that difficult, but a lot of people, like, we can, and again, it's not people's fault to some degree because they've been fed this whole load of garbage to like to follow. You know, it's like, it's just like you think about like cars and big giant fancy houses. It's like people have been, this is how you know you've made it. You've got this really expensive car, this really expensive house, and whatever. Now you're like, no, you're miserable, but you have all those payments. But hey, no, like this is it. You've made it. You've been conditioned to believe that. And so a lot of times, you know, when you look at like the marketing space with diet and pills and stuff, it's like, no, you've been lied to about everything. It's really not that. It's this one food that you must stay away from. And if you stop eating this food, like all your problems will be whatever. Or if you start taking this supplement, you know, it's like, or maybe you just go to sleep and you go for some walks every now and then. Hey, you see some sunlight in the day. Maybe you feel better. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. And
all valid points, Chewy.
Hopefully, if nothing else, if you didn't really get a good, clear idea as to what you're going to do, hopefully at least if you start reaching that point where you're starting to get really just fatigued, tired, sore, whatever, if you have any guilt about taking a rest day, you just say, hey, you know, Chewy told me to take a rest day. Let me try it. And again, test it out for yourself. Take the rest day, come back, see how you feel. Maybe you don't like having a rest day, and that's fine. You don't have to. But maybe you take the rest day, you feel amazing the next time you come back. Maybe you take 2 rest days back to back. See how you feel after that. See how you feel when you get back on the mats. Your cardio is probably not going to be gone, I don't imagine. And you're probably going to have like a nice clear head. You're going to have all this like energy to like I want to be on the mats and train. Try it out. Just see how it works for you. That's always my call with you guys. It's an idea to chew on, and it's for you to test out. Like we're all going in our own different directions. We all have different unique circumstances. Your job is to figure out what works best for you. Big thanks to our sponsors for helping us bring this podcast to your ears. Charlotte's Web. If you guys want to check them out, they are one of the premier CBD companies out there. They make all kinds of products from CBD gummies, tinctures, which is like the little dropper. They have CBN gummies, which is a different cannabinoid that's really useful for, again, trying to get to sleep and stay asleep, which is great for your recovery because if we can get good sleep, we're going to recover better. They also have other products such as functional mushroom products using things like lion's mane to help improve focus, and reishi, which can be used for stress management, things like that. So a lot of cool products that get into all this recovery stuff we're talking about, dealing with stress and helping deal with, you know, all the sports induced inflammation that we talk about. It's a really good product to sort of aid you in that recovery. It definitely will not sort of bypass bad sleep, bad diet. But again, if you're talking about the small percentages that you want to try, CBD can sort of help you increase those and be an assist for that. So check them out at charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. Also, a little secret in my bearded repertoire is if you are trying to get a little motivation for training, sometimes, you know, what works really well is just to go buy some new gear. Now, sometimes, like, you know, your spouse may be like, hey, listen, you got enough stuff. You don't need another gi. You don't need another rash guard, whatever, which could be true. But sometimes just having a new set of rash guards or a new gi is really fun. I remember getting my new no-gi Jiu-Jitsu stuff that I got. I was like so excited to wear it. I remember when we were out at the ADCC a couple years ago, and the future kimono guys gave us some gear. I was like, oh, these are so cool. It's a new rash guard, new material. I can't wait to try it. So again, it could be fun. I remember one time getting a gi and then, you know, got sick. Like the day it came in, I also got sick.
Yeah.
So I was down for like a week and I was like looking at the gi, just waiting. Like, I can't wait to wear this gi to training next week. So, you know, with that, if you guys want to check out any gear, go to the website at epicrollbjj.com. They're one of our sponsors. They make great stuff, great looking gear, great quality stuff. They do a great job with customer service. And if you guys want to check them out, use the promo code Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order at checkout. Also, if you like the podcast, you enjoy it, and you'd like to support us, become a Patreon member at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast for a very inexpensive price, probably less than for some of you guys you spend on coffee in a day. You can get basically a membership to the podcast, which supports us. You get a bunch of other perks for it. Everybody knows how this works. It's like this is not something new. If you guys want to check out the Patreon membership and see what you get and also see the price and everything else, again, it's not expensive at all. You can go to the website at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast to get all the details on it with pricing and the perks. And guys, if you want to get an ebook that I give away that comes along with a video called Focus Jiu-Jitsu, go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join. This is to join my Chew Crew email list that I send my daily email to. When you join up, you'll get an ebook that's called Focus Jiu-Jitsu. For any of you guys where I'm talking about rest, right? I'm talking about taking days off, and I'm talking about getting more from your training. One of the things that you're going to have to do on the days that you train is you have to have a very clear focus as to what you're doing on the mat. Because if you're going to like sacrifice some of the quantity of your training, you have to get better quality training. And one of the ways to get better quality training is to make sure that you know what the hell you're doing when you're on the mats, and you know what your goals are, you know what you're working towards, you have a clear focus. Now, the issue is that a lot of people go into gyms, and sometimes a coach is not tailoring the class to their needs, right? Because they have a whole group that they're working, which happens, and it's understandable. So you have to take it upon yourself, and you have to do this at some point anyway. Your coach is going to show you things and they can add to your game, but at some point you have to do a little bit of like self-assessment and sort of direct yourself to a degree. Your coach is essentially at some point helping you teach yourself. And so what you can do with the ebook is it gives you 12 different strategies on how to identify some areas that you could focus on, some different things you could focus on during your open rolls. So when you're going to an open mat, or if your gym just has like open rolling, that kind of thing, it will give you clear things that you can focus on, clear strategies that you could focus on to get the most from those, which again will help you have a clear line of sight as to, am I getting better? Am I improving? Am I making progress? So just something to chew on if you want to get it. It's at my website, chewjitsu.net/join. You'll get the ebook and the video for free. You'll get my daily email, which I send out, and again, goes through a lot of cool stuff. If you want to check it out, you can unsubscribe at any time and keep the ebook for yourself. And guys, with that said, thank you so much for joining. Oh, and I've been talking about this recently, and I'll keep doing this as we end the podcast. If you guys are interested, my co-host here, Eugene, a black belt in jiu-jitsu and also a doctor of physical therapy, has recently sort of taken on, because he has private clients that he works with here. He actually looked at my wife today, her neck. She was having some neck bothering stuff and bothering her. So he looked at her neck. And again, he's been my go-to guy, and he's like my gym's go-to guy for the last 15 years. Anytime someone's broken, we go to Eugene and he fixes. He makes us better. And if you guys are dealing with whether it's an injury, whether you're coming back from surgery, or if you're one of those smart people who's like, you know what, I would like to avoid both of those things. And if I can have someone customize a plan for me to give me the exercises that are going to deal with my specific muscular imbalances, then check out Eugene. He has a coaching program where he can do an assessment with you, and he can customize a routine specifically for your needs. Again, the reason why I think it's important is because we all have different bodies and makeups. We have different muscle tightnesses and stuff. Some stuff is very similar because we do jiu-jitsu, right? And we have problems, but other things are different. Last night we were recording an assessment for one of our products that we're working on, which we'll share with you guys soon, which is like how to do a self-assessment, because we have this little program that we created. And with that, we're looking at it and I'm really tight in weird ways where one side's way tighter than the other. And so it basically lets me know I need to focus on this left side on this more, the right side on this more, opposed to, well, I should just stretch them both equally, whatever, or even some stretches really aren't going to benefit me because I'm fine where there, but I really need to focus more on other areas because I'm lacking there. So he can customize that for you. And what's nice about that is that having a more functional, more mobile body will mean that you will be more likely to avoid injury, be more resistant to it. Eugene, if they want to sort of contact you, where should they go?
There is a contact page on my website, jujitsutherapist.com. You can email me or on social media.
So jujitsutherapist.com.
Yeah, that's the easiest way. And there's a contact page. There's a little info on remote coaching, and I work with, I work with people that are coming back from injury or just interested in getting back to jiu-jitsu in a safe way. Somebody that's needs rehab, or even somebody that's just kind of limited and needs some mobility work.
Mm-hmm.
And we do customized programming basically month to month.
Yeah.
And we adjust that as needed and get you feeling better. So,
yep. And again, so you guys can go there and you do a 15-minute consultation with them.
So we do a call at first, and then actually if we,
because you got to make sure I can actually help you. you know, like you do the 15-minute call, I can actually help you, and we seem like we're a good fit versus
right. And the way it kind of works, we set up a call. Actually, like once we do that 15-minute call, if we decide to move forward, we actually do a 1-hour video call where I take you through all the movements and do kind of an onboarding session where we kind of just answer all your questions and go through all the movements, and I just kind of have you do some things and figure out what's going on. Then we give you a customized program. So
cool. So guys, again, just something to throw out at you if you're interested in, you know, that sort of thing. It's useful. Sometimes not. It's like one of those things where it's like, it's maybe not the most fun thing to spend money on, but it's going back to the idea of resting, right? Like resting isn't as fun as training, right? But it's so valuable when you can train for a long period of time without injury, without being super tired and getting the most from yourself. So it's like it's that maintenance on your body. It's taking care of your body ahead of time so that you don't have to pay for it on the other end. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much for being here. We'll talk to you next week.